Welcome, everyone, to our August 13th, 2024 webinar, Time Travel into the Future. Last month, we did a webinar called Time Travel Then is Now, which emphasized very much that even though we can assess all kinds of energetic influences from the past, we assess them in the present time. But one of the important things that came up, and someone asked that I actually devote the next webinar to dealing with the future. And I think it's a really important topic too, because many times we're concerned about the future for one reason or another. And it may be that, we have concerns about what's going to happen to us financially, health wise, our relationships, our general good fortune. Um, and so, we want to assess what's going to come. Or many times we get to a fork in the road and we have to make decisions. And we want to know which decision is going to be the most useful, life supporting for us, down the road. Um, and so being able to deal with the future is a very important step. Now, time travel in my work is actually a very specific and special technique, which is used to assess information in the past, or in the present moment, or in the future. And so, time travel into the future is really just sensing the possibilities that exist that that can come to us. And to describe that, I was searching for a quotation. I didn't actually get the one I wanted. There's somewhere in the Vedic literature is a quotation about how time is like a wave traveling on the surface of the ocean. And the wave is that which is uprisen, that which is manifest. The past is that which is quiescent, settled down again. And the future is the potentialities that the wave can create based on where it is and what's going on, the wind and the bottom of the ocean and so on. So it was a way of looking at the the dynamics, as it were, of the passage of time. There is a verse in Bhagavad Gita. Is that going to show? Probably not very well. It doesn't like to do that. There, did it for a second. I have the blur the background thing on for Zoom, and it recognizes me and it makes everything else blurry. But verse 28 of chapter 2 of the Bhagavad Gita, this is the translation and commentary by Maharshi Mahesh Yogi, and it says, creatures are unmanifest in the beginning, manifest in the middle state, and unmanifest again at the end, O Bharata. What grief is there in this? I won't try to explain that last part of it. The O Bharata is just a reference to Arjuna, who's the great warrior who's drawn his chariot up before the beginning of a battle, great battle between his clan and his kinsmen. And Krishna is instructing him in the understanding that life goes on and it becomes manifest, then it ceases to be manifest, and then it manifests again. So this idea that creatures are unmanifest in the beginning, manifest in the middle state, it's the state where they are uprisen, to where they become physical, and then unmanifest again at the end, but they continue to exist in the unmanifest state. And so this was, also a way of giving optimism, but it gives us a sense of the way time moves on. We take on a body, we live in that body for a period of time, maybe a short period, maybe a long period by human standards, not geological standards, but human standards. And then we cease to exist in the manifest state, but we exist in the unmanifest state. So travel in the future, time travel into the future, is really about sensing the possibilities that are coming. And what that means is that they can vary, they can change depending on changing conditions. And so as we're assessing the future, We're assessing where we're at as we are moving forward and hopefully taking in all kinds of environmental influences that might determine and indeed might modify our future from what we think it's going to be based on our might you might say our cognitive ability to assess what's coming. You plan a marriage and a long happy life together with children and so on and so forth. um, but things can happen on the way to the altar. So many movies have been made, about one or the other of the spouses running away from the wedding ceremony, and a marriage not actually happening, or things happen. You get married and somebody passes away after a short period of time, months or years. um, and so you're faced with that change in what you expect the future to be, but you can hold desires about that. But that's a complicated process that I want to actually explain a bit. Our future holds unlimited potentiality. All kinds of things can happen. And it's shaped by our present circumstances, but also by the impressions that we carry from the past. And these may be good things, so we say positive experiences and stuff that have left impressions on us, but also negative things, which means things that are painful and that we would like to avoid in the future. And so, moving forward in time, we are shaped by all that has gone on before, family events, and indeed a family karma, if you will. That is to say, patterns of behavior that have handed down through generations. And then, of course, our past life experiences, things that have happened to us previously. And so we have accumulated what we often call karma, which means the fruits of action. Karma literally means action. And what we're talking about here is what we have done. And then we say that good karma is rewarded. Actually, all karma is rewarded. There's no judgment in it. But we call good karma is that which we enjoy, particularly when it comes back to us. And bad karma is that which we don't enjoy, those things we wish we didn't have to live through. But, we do have to do that. And then we also come to Earth with a factor we call dharma, which means purpose. And that includes lessons that we have to learn in this lifetime. And so nature will provide that we have these opportunities to learn these lessons. And so sometimes when you get to be my age, look back over your life and you say, oh, that kind of situation arose several times in my life. I seem not to have learned the lesson that was being presented to me. And so, we can have understandings about our infinite potential and unbounded existence, but the real lesson is actually getting to that point. That is our living reality. So our life purpose, our dharma, and our karma affect our future. They help structure our future. And so when we come to a crossroads where we can choose what direction to take, well, we may not be able to recognize which path represents our dharma, our fastest path of evolution, and which arises from pain from our past experiences. And so, to look into the future, things that we can do to see and what's shaping our future. Well, the first one, first and foremost, is to transcend the relative material value of life, the realm of time itself, and go to the source of nature's intelligence, nature's guidance, to find our direction in accordance with Dharma. That is what nature really wants us to do. Transcend. And then when we come out of that meditative state, um, we move the way we feel we should. And oftentimes we don't even have a conscious direction in that. We just feel to go this way. It just happens. It just unfolds for us. And when we look back, maybe we can say, oh, I can see at these decision points in my life, places where I had opportunities to do one thing or another, I made certain decisions, and I really didn't make those decisions. It's like I knew I had to do this. I had to go this particular route. And I can look back over my life and see positions, points where I might have followed a practical dharma, if you will, medical um, career more fully, or I might have done what I did, which was ultimately to come to MIU, Marshall International University, and be close to Marshy's knowledge and be able to practice some medicine and do some teaching and experience what I felt was the most rapid pace of evolution I could possibly have followed. So transcending is always the first principle. Go to the source, find the direction there. And it doesn't, as I was describing, it doesn't necessarily come to you, like a printed sheet. You don't get a set of directions usually. It just nature just unfolds it for you. Because when you transcend, you let go of karma and you move according to dharma. Um, the second thing you can do is find the impressions stored within that could push one to make a decision that might not be in one's best interest, that is, might not keep one on the most evolutionary path. Find those things that are blocking our going forward and then clear those impressions. We can clear them by transcending, of course, but we can take more specific and directed ways of clearing them, which are techniques that I use all the time and which people enjoy, working with me to clear those impressions and get the energy flowing in a dharmic direction that is one that is really evolutionary. Or you can use the time travel technique. That's something I want to spend a little bit of time on here. We use the time travel technique to track the trends of time to some future event or situation or outcome, if you will, some unfolding that comes from our wave moving forward. Um, and so we can use that time travel technique. So what is that technique? Well, as I explained in the last session, happy to go over it again because I think probably most people haven't tried it out in the month intervening. So we're going to try it out tonight in the group clearing session, but we'll try it out right now in practical sense. You can think of time travel as you have like a railroad track or something, a home style, a train, not a actual train, just for the picture, just to create a picture in your mind. And so you've got this track and you have a slider or maybe a car that's on there, and you can roll that car wherever that car is. That is where we are now, but then we can, wherever we put it down on the track is where we are now, but we can move backward down the track or we can move forward. In fact, the car doesn't care which way you go. And as you move it, then you can sense, oh, there's something here, or something further back, or further back, or further back, or forward. We can move forward into it. Now we can do that like with a question. I'm going to take a sip here. I'm running a little dry. Pardon me. I forgot to mute my mic while I did that. Hope that wasn't horrible. Um, when we move it forward, we can sense into where is there something of significance, and we can ask a question as we're about to do that, about to move the car forward. Um, and it's just a picture exercise. You don't actually have to have a track, right? Just in your mind, you can move that. You're going to move that thing forward, but you can ask a question. Um, where will I find move into a new home? Okay, common kind of thing, or get a new job, or any other question that you have about that. Uh, like when is the best time to travel to a particular destination if you have one in mind? And you just move the car. I always close my eyes when I do this so that I'm not distracted. I really can turn inward. I just settle down and I'm going to move the car until I feel into where, let's see, where am I? And December, well, I landed on December. So I didn't ask a question, but there's something in December for me. So I will look into that later. But during the group clearing session, I'll check on what's supposed to happen to me in December. But how did I know that? I just felt that. I just felt it. And so it's one of those subtle feelings, subtle thoughts that comes in that you're sensing into the thing, and you go like, okay, here we are in August, September, October. Well, now I'm getting stuck in November, like something's going to slow down, or it feels hard to make a movement, and then I can't get to December. Okay, this is interesting. I'll have to go look at this again in the group clearing session. But that's my sense of it. Is I'm just feeling it. I mean, I am actually moving my hand. There it is. I have it down below the camera. The view of the camera, and I'm just sliding along until I find something. So if you ask a particular question about a thing occurring in time, that's fine. Or if you want to ask the question, which way should I go? Then you use a slightly different thing. You move your slider and you're thinking, do I go that way or this other way? Right? You have two options or maybe more options. You could have three or four, but it's easier to work with two. So you've got two options and you're thinking, okay, which way are we going? Are we going to A or B? And I'm getting B. We're going to go with B. I got to go do some work. We close our eyes here. Okay, so something B is my path. I don't know what B is. I didn't identify it, but I get, oh, I'm going to take that track and see what comes. Tracking is a good word because what it means is we're following the energy pattern. And you don't even have to have a very clear sense of it. It's just that feeling, like, um, like well, to use a technique that Richard Bartlett taught me in matrix energetics, it's called windows. And you have you imagine that you have a window here, right? Has glass in it. And you want to know, is the window open or closed? So you're going to put your hand up and try to feel it. Okay. And so if it's closed, when usually you start, the window's closed. So you put your hand up and you go like, all right, there's something there. It's stopping my hand. And right now I'm feeling it very strongly. So then you want to go path A or path B. Where is the open window? Path A, no. Path B, yeah, we're going to go with path B. So you feel it like that. And there's a whole, if you take his courses, you can learn a whole bunch of stuff about that. But this is just a very simple technique. Anybody can do this. You just put your hand up, go like, I have a window. Okay. Now I'm going to ask a question. I'm going to ask, is the window open that I can go forward, or is it closed? Okay. Window is closed. Okay. Path A, no. Path B, yeah, that moves. So there's an opening there. That's window technique. So that's very similar to time travel, in that you're assessing where you're going, what's open, what's a viable option for you. And nature gets to guide you. Nature gets to direct that. So again, the more familiar you are with the transcendental field, the more years you have of meditating and diving into that absolute state of silence, state of absolute silence, then you can feel into what nature is guiding you to do. So that's the time travel technique. It's very, very valuable. Um, when you're trying to find what impressions are stored within you, you can use the time travel, go backwards. What something seems blocked in me. Where did that come from? So you start where you are and count back. I usually count back in 10-year blocks, decades. But as I start to sense something, then I'll go to 5-year blocks or even a 1 year. What year? What year? What year? Okay, where was I in that year? What happened to me? What impression was made in me? And it's pretty easy to do, actually. You just have to practice that a little bit till you get comfortable with the idea, like, oh, I can just sense back in here. I'm going to move my slider. and count the years back. And there we go down into, and so you get as specific as you want. So it's just another technique for getting into that. Some people can just intuit directly without doing the little time travel game, or the window technique. But you can just use those techniques as a way of sensing into the thing that's going on. Um, Now, another thing we can do to produce outcomes that we want, clearly getting rid of the impressions, the stresses that are in our system that come from past experiences, this lifetime, past lifetimes, things we inherit from our family. Um, we can deal with all of those things. That's one way. Um, but another way is to put our attention on where we want to go. Now, again, if our desires are guided by stresses, then we're looking for things that may not be very useful to our evolution. But if we open ourselves to what's the most evolutionary path to take from this on this matter, then we go like, oh, okay, we're going to go like that. Um, so envisioning what we want is important, and then letting go. That's the tricky part. If we hold on to a particular desire, keep it conscious in our mind, we stay on the conscious level. We might be able to stir the subtler levels of existence if we have a lot of experience with those subtle levels. But it's so much more efficient if we just desire and let go. This was a program, basically, or a technique that Maharshi envisioned, that we just sense what direction we should go, and then we just go. And we may find that as we're going along, we have to reassess, move in a different direction, because nature, like the wind, doesn't always blow in exactly the same direction. It comes out of one direction, then it shifts a little bit, goes another direction, shifts over to the other side a little bit. We get changes. Like here in Iowa, the wind changes direction all the time, both little bits and of course great big ones. The wind can be out of the north in the morning and out of the south in the afternoon. Not at all unusual. And that brings a whole different effect and different kinds of weather that come depending on which way the wind is blowing. So same is true in life. Which way the wind is blowing, we have to sense. So we start and then we don't hold on. And particularly, we don't hold on to specific outcomes. And again, in the Bhagavad Gita, it makes this very clear. We don't hang on to specific outcomes because nature may want us to start in one direction and then may want us to move in a different direction and let go and learn non-attachment to a specific outcome, right? Don't be attached to outcomes. It's the process that brings us evolution. And so we move in the direction of more and more presence, more and more enlightenment, um, by just starting and following the path wherever it takes us. So we don't hang on, we let go. And then finally, one more thing that we can do. There are technologies that Marshy has developed, provided, didn't develop them, provided them, um, and purified them a great deal, called Jyotish, which is Vedic astrology to assess what is coming. And again, Vedic astrology does not assess whether it's good or bad. It just tells you what's coming. And so, you just flow with what is coming. But you can do things to mitigate effects that might be unpleasant, or that represent having to pay debts in an unhappy sort of way, karmic debts. And so you do Vedic performances. They're called yagya, 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 to settle those karmic debts. And Yaga Vedic, particularly Maharishi Vedic performances, Vedic Yaga is very powerful. And I've seen lots of examples of people who are seriously ill and other sorts of things, and having the yagas done and having things shift for them in a very, very dynamic and very positive way. So that gives you a spectrum of things that you can do to help keep your path, to stay on your path, to keep moving towards more and more presence, more and more enlightenment, more and more awareness, um, and following, what nature wants you to be able to do. So that time travel technique is a beautiful one. Even when we do all the others, to also do the time travel, let's see where we are going and sliding along. And there's a decision point. And which way shall I go? What possibilities are there? So we move with the wave of the present, the uprisen wave in the present, and set a course, set a future. That may change. Different things may happen. There's a great big universe outside of us, a great big world, and world events may have huge effects on our life. Political events, weather, climate, all kinds of stuff. Financial, trends for particular times, things that are not in our control in the usual physical sense or mental sense, but things that we were a part of on the subtle level. And if we're tuned into that, then we can ride those things, those questions of fortune and what direction to take, what's going to be good for us. So I think that's basically what I want to say about this. And I've gone on for about a half an hour. So if there are any questions, please put them in the chat and I will be happy to answer them, to address them. And then we will move on into our group clearing session. And while everybody's fingers are flying here to make comments and questions, just mention that you are eligible for a $25 discount on a 3-session program if you sign up by August 31st, which you have to remind me because I have to give you a special way to do that. You have to tell me. So I'm not seeing any chats. Any chats? No chats. Well, we can get back to things later. Very good. So I'm going to end the recording here. My next webinar, I have to put that in here, is planned for September 10th. September is a very filled with possibilities. It's a month filled with possibilities. I might possibly have to reschedule the September 10th webinar, but that will be the plan. And the plan at the moment is to review what we can learn from the movies Inside Out. There was a first one, which they didn't call one, but there's Inside Out 1 and Inside Out 2, which has been in theaters and is just leaving theaters now. And I think those have a lot to say about how we manage our emotions. And they're quite instructive, good for children of all ages. So we'll look forward to that. Okay, then, checking. Nope, no chats. Stop the recording.